stuff. Thanks very much, Anthony. Anthony invited me out to speak at this same course last year. It was a really good honour. Hopefully I did an alright job, and the fact that I was asked back again means it must have been terrible anyway. Congratulations to you guys for just making the effort and taking time out of your own personal life and stuff to better yourselves. I know myself, I always try and get on as many courses as I can, and it's hard with the demands of AFL football. Your weekends are blocked up for the most part of the year, and then the sun is out the other part of the year, so you want to enjoy that as well. Thankfully the sun is not out today while we're inside, because that would make it a bit awkward, and pretty hot in here as well. So yeah, credit to you guys for coming, giving up your time, and I hope you've enjoyed the morning so far, and hopefully this next hour presentation that I'm going to cover on physical preparation for AFL will just give you a bit of a better insight and plug some of the gaps that maybe you guys have with your own program or with your own knowledge. I want this presentation to be very interactive, a two-way thing. I'm hoping I can learn lots from you guys, share your ideas, share your ways of doing things, any really good drills you've got, any good just ways of encouraging your players. Let's get as much out there, share as much information, and I'll share whatever I've got with you guys. Also want to make sure you guys get exactly what you want out of it. So what I did last year, and it worked really well, we just went around the room, and if anybody's got specific areas that they want me to cover, we'll kind of delve into them in a little bit more depth, and maybe we'll pull back on other areas that there's not so much demand for. So I don't know, it could be in terms of warm-ups, it could be a little bit about like nutrition the night before a game, what should guys be having, what should guys be having morning of a game, post-game recovery, ice baths, stretch, what do we do, fitness, conditioning, weights, whatever it is. So anybody want to shout? Don't be shy.
Yeah. Use of in recovery yoga.
Yep. Okay.
So what you guys use?
Yep.
A bit about what you use.
Perfect. So we'll go through recovery modalities, what we use, what's kind of used at academy, youth level, right the way up to what's used at elite level. I think the biggest mistake a lot of people make is they look what's happening at the elite level, and they try and do that with 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds. And obviously there's a big gap there. So we've got to do what's right for the athlete rather than just what the Hawks are doing or what Port are doing. So we'll chat about that.
Yeah, I'm very interested to learn more about injury management, in particular prevention of injuries, particularly new football, soft bones, growing shoulder bodies, and my experience is that injuries can make a break a team.
Yeah. So my belief is that your team is only as good as what you put out on the pitch. You can have a great list, but if half them are sidelined, it's no use to anybody. In terms of growing injuries and stuff like that, I've had a lot of experience through the academy dealing with those sort of injuries, or onset injuries or overload injuries with teenagers. And again, the role I have at Scots College with the school, there's almost 2,000 kids there, so you see quite a lot. I've had a bit of experience dealing with that, so we can definitely touch on that. So that's recovery, injury prevention and injury management. Anybody got any others? Put them up on the board, we'll make sure we go through them as the presentation goes on.
Just the transition from 14, 15-year-olds stepped up to under 18s.
Yep, excellent. So, what was the point for that? So recovery, injury, transition, anybody got any others?
Yeah, fluid intake, pre-match, during match, post-match.
Yeah, it's hydration, so yeah, massively important.
Darren, weight training, specifically around 16, 17-year-olds.
Some of the physiological differences between the development of girls and boys, so you can just help them balancing.
Yeah.
From the wages on evaluate, benchmark.
Yeah.
upload,
Yeah.
make them enjoy running to do that bit.
Excellent, yeah. Keep going.
That workload with running,
Yeah.
pre-season, start, mid and end of season.
Excellent. So that's one of the things we're going to cover in the presentation is different stages of the season and the intensities. And workload will tie into what you want us to talk about, which is injury prevention and injury management. Yeah.
I guess covering all of with all of that in mind, supplements.
Yep. Yep.
Maybe just not many people here would have access to the gym at their club, so like, things are out there, like there's commercial gyms and there's all these different other
Excellent, yeah.
gyms, so maybe point like different age groups in the right direction for those,
Yeah.
those age groups.
So we'll just brand that as, say, facilities. So what you do when you've got
Fitness,
facilities.
organisations or whatever.
Sweet. And if there's anything else that comes up, just let me know. If there's anything that I don't feel really competent about, I'm not an expert to talk on it. I'll get information from someone that is and I'll pass it on to you. I'll get your emails and send it around, or I'll give you the name of someone that's worth hitting up, or an online resource where you get better information than what I already know and I'm able to put out. All good? Okay, sweet, we'll crack on. So what I want to talk about in today's presentation are what I kind of call the three fundamentals when it comes to performance, okay? So we've got movements, athleticism, and ultimately the end goal is performance. It's my belief that you can't have performance without first being athletic, unless you're a darts player and you want to drink beer all day. Unfortunately, we're not darts players, we're footy players, and coaches are footy players. You can't have athleticism without having proper movement either. Okay, so movement is always the number one for me. So when we talk about resistance training, gym, what's the right age to start players training at, it doesn't matter, okay? When they're babies, they're crawling, they're squatting, they're hinging at the hips, they've got great movement, and then somewhere along the line, they go to high school and they sit in a chair all day, or even as us, we sit in cars, offices all day, and our hips just get jammed up, our back gets rounded, our shoulders come forward, and our movement turns to crap. Okay, so with kids, body weight movement, just getting them moving perfectly, and I'll give you an example of tests you can do and what I deem good movement, but that underpins everything. It's no good being strong if you can't move, okay? Athleticism then obviously speaks for itself. If we want to perform, I'll go into that in a little bit more detail later on, and I like that performance. Performance is just the icing on the cake. So you do all the hard work, you build up you got your ingredients for your cake, you put it together properly, and then performance is the outcome rather than the end product. So if we're to look at movements, four kind of main areas of movement, if you like. We'll talk about stability, flexibility, mobility, and then balance. Okay? So guys, before I go on, don't stress too much, make your own notes. I'll send the slides on and you can have this full presentation for yourself to go back over. Obviously a lot of it's just pictures, so if you want to write down what I'm talking about, but I will send you a copy of this to have. So these are my four fundamentals of movement. Again, it's not just when I say it's my belief, but it's based off everything I've read, everything I've studied, connections I've got, other strength coaches in the AFL, in other sports, in rugby, soccer. Obviously I'm Irish, so back home in Ireland, Gaelic football and stuff like that. So yeah, it's my opinion, but it's my opinion based on a lot of other people's opinions as well, and what's worked previously. So when you talk about youth athletes, injury prevention, resistance training, what age is the right age? Well, there's no age where you'd ever say it's dangerous to have good stability or to work on stability, to work on flexibility, to work on mobility, or to work on balance. Okay, they're things that we all do naturally as soon as we're babies and on as we grow up. And you wouldn't believe the amount of really good footballers that have are really poor in each of these areas, but then they're amazing on the track. So if you take a kid like that and you imagine if we got him moving well, how much better he could be. So he's really not playing to his potential when you look at the limitations of his movement. Does that make sense? Anybody got examples of players like that in their team? Really inflexible, but just once they get on the pitch, they're done. Yeah. So those are the kind of kids. It's pretty exciting when you look at a kid like that that's naturally gifted, but physically has a lot to make up for it. You can make them a hell of a lot better. And then at the same token, you've got kids that are excellent with these 4 components and crap on the park. So they need a bit more skill, obviously, than physical preparation. Other kids have the skill, need a bit more physical preparation. So it's finding out the balance of your squad. Just if we're to quickly go around the room, what type of age groups are we coaching? So who would be involved in, say, upwards up to 12, say from 12s to 16s, 16s plus, 16s to 18s, seniors, girls, ladies, yeah, sweet. So we've got a good mix right across the board. So I'll try and cover everything. If I don't be afraid to put up your hand, shout at me, throw a pen at me, get me to take care of what you need to know. All good? So when we look at assessing movement, okay, obviously we've got a physio screen. Now if we're a small local under 15s club, we might not have access to a physio, and if we do have access to physio, we might not have access to a physio that's going to screen each of our players. I'm going to show you a really simple way to screen a player, and it's very easy to multiply it across your whole squad. It's one I do. I'm a firm believer in whatever it is you need to do, learn how to do it first with little or no resources, and you'll be sweet. And then when the day comes that you get a bit of cash, you get the resources, happy days. But at least you know how to do it with nothing to start off. Okay, and that's what develops you into a good coach as well. A good coach can take a session with no cones, no facilities, on the side bit of grass there, like you just did, without having any prior notice. The not so great coach wants everything perfect, and then when they show up and it's not, they blame the fact that they can't do the session on the fact that everything's not perfect. Okay, so get comfortable doing things with minimal equipment and minimal resources, and it will really stand you in the long run. Functional movement screen is probably the second best option after the physio screen. Again, that's down to resources. That's my preferred option. It's something you guys could all administer yourself. It's just a bit of kit, probably about 300 bucks to buy. You get a manual that's pretty simple to go through. You don't have to be a physio to do it. The more times you do it, the more accurate you get, and it gives you really good information on your athletes. It's pretty detailed as well, so it's the next level down from a physio screen, I would say. The one I'm going to show to you guys right now, overhead squat assessment. This is excellent, very, very easy to fly through your squad with. So, can I get 2 people, please? One person who deems themselves pretty inflexible or pretty bad mobility. Yeah, sweet. Okay, let's go. Jump up. And I get one person who's all right, does a bit of training, and is happy enough just to. All I got you to do is just got to get you to do one squat. So I'll get you to stand in front here so everybody can see. All right. Going to start off. What I'm going to get you to do is I'll give you an example first. So normally I'd use like an empty broomstick. This is fine. It's a little bit heavy on this end, but it's no drama. Again, I just looked around the room. I saw this in the corner. I was like, sweet, we'll do that. So be comfortable using whatever resources you got. Okay, so you get the athlete place the dowel on their head, arms at right angles. So can you look at me and tell me if my arms are at right angles? Don't need to go any wider or anything. So your kids will automatically go, yeah, that's a right angle. So you got to cue them, bring your hands in, and then they'll go, okay. And you go, no, I have a little on my feet there. Okay, so bars on my head, feet dead straight ahead, arms out overhead, and now what I've got you to do is squat down, see if you can get all the way down, keeping the dowel above the ears. Okay, we'll do that again from the side. So, bars above the ears, feet nice and straight, squat down, and back up. Okay, you give them 3 attempts. There's a whole protocol. I can give you the resource for where that is. So, let's try that yourself, Mark. Okay, so, Mark ahead, sweet. I'll get you to turn a little bit to face everybody else. Okay, send the arms out. Now I want you to do I want you to straight out your feet. So heels can stay where they are, toes can keep quite straight. Okay, lock out the elbows. Then you push it up, yeah. Now really, really slow, squat down to where you feel comfortable and just stop. Okay, one stop, come back up. The rest you're going to do it 3 times. Okay, so I want you guys to spot. Just look at his different joints and what's happening to the bar. Okay, we're going to go around the room and see what happens next. Okay. Okay, don't worry, just do the best you can. You're doing really good. Last one. Sweet. Okay. Round of applause for Mark. Good on you. There you go. Alright. Michael, I'll get you up. Okay, same thing. So typically, Michael's got no shoes on. Typically we do this exercise with no shoes, but just for the purpose of getting through it quick in this presentation. We're not going to be overly finicky on the details. So Michael, I'll get you to straighten up the feet a little bit. It's more the toes. They always have the toes pointed out like a clown, so we need to keep the toes straight. Okay, bar down on your head. That right. Extend into an overhead position. Lock out the elbows, good. Nice and slowly squat down. Excellent. Okay, again, Michael's going to go twice more. I'm going to do one more facing this way and last one from the side. See what you notice about Michael. Okay, turn to the side there, Michael. Excellent. Okay, and applause for Michael. Not easy getting up in front of the crowd like that. Much appreciated, guys. Okay, so what did we notice first of all about Mark? Yep. Yep. Knees bent forward rather than coming out. Yeah. So what else happened to his knees? You said they didn't move out. They moved in. Okay. What else did we notice? Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Flexibility of his arms. What happened to were they good, bad? So what happened to pole? Yeah. Yeah, and it kind of came forward a little bit as well. Notice anything else? His feet, okay, every time, so the feet start off in a straight position. So when the feet start off straight, and then as they go down, they turn out like this. Okay, that's a discrepancy as well. We didn't see any Michael Jackson with either Mark or Michael. Normally when you get kids to do it straight away, they just go onto their heels because they've got tight calves, or else they've just grown, the bones have grown quicker than the muscles have grown. But again, really good exercise. We got through 2 athletes there in the space of what, less than 5 minutes? Okay, so if you have 2 coaches screening squad at 20, 30 guys, you can get through it pretty quick. And all I do is I go ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, arms. And I just go, you either tick the box or put an X in the box, one or the other. Obviously we can go into far more detail, like you pointed out, one arm stronger than the other and stuff. What I do is when all the boxes are ticked, when I'm happy enough with all the boxes, then I go back and start looking at the arms in huge detail like that, but just for the sake of getting through everything. So obviously if a kid goes down and his arms go forward like that, and his hips can't race down past his knees, they're the little things you're putting an X beside. They're saying, okay Michael, I want you to work on your hip mobility for the next 4 weeks, and we're going to retest that exercise. Have you got a sweep brush at home? Okay, next time your mom asks you to sweep the kitchen, after you sweep the kitchen, practice your overhead squats. Okay, work on your mobility. Give them a couple of other flexibility drills to work on that. Okay, and when you give a kid a score, so if we mark the overhead squat out of 6, and they've got 2 out of 6, they automatically want to get up. When you make things quantifiable for them, when we talk about evaluation, okay, so always evaluate them, but give them something that's tangible. So whether that's a max chin-up test, whether that's a 3K time trial, or whether that's the overhead squat, okay? Like I said, I scored out of 6. You're just working up, and they've always got something more to attain from. The last 2 pre-seasons we've done it with just under 150 kids every year at the Swans Academy, 6 weeks prior to Christmas. The scores kind of range between 1 and 4 out of 6. You'll get a couple of guys out of 6 out of 6. We give them a 6 weeks corrective program. So like I said, I go, Michael, I want you to work on your ankle mobility and your hip mobility. Mark, I want you to work on your shoulder mobility and your hip mobility. They come back after 6 weeks. Most of them have done the work, and you see a big increase in score. Most of the guys are up around 4, 5, 6 out of 6 rather than 1, 2, 3 out of 6.
How do you mark the point for each? How do you mark it?
Yeah, you just mark it joint by joint. So you're looking at 6 joints, and it's either.
What were the 6 joints?
So we go feet. When I say 6 joints, it's not technically 6 joints. But we go feet, ankle, knee, hip, torso, and arms. Right, and along with, I'll send you this presentation. I'll send you a small PDF booklet. It's about 10 pages on how to administer that test and also how to prescribe the corrective exercises for the test. All good? Anybody got any questions on that? Okay, the last one then, this might be a little bit more applicable to guys looking after senior men's or ladies teams, and again, depending on whether you got the facilities or the resources, but musculoskeletal markers. So this is done at all professional clubs and all sports, where guys will come in first thing in the morning, and before they do anything, they have a couple of different tests to do. So normally they'll weigh in, then they'll do a vertical jump test or a broad jump test to see how much, roughly as a measure of readiness and power in the body. After that then they'll do a couple of flexibility tests, and they're ready to go. They file that in the computer or on an iPad, and then all the physios, whether it be at Collingwood, wherever it is, they can see every kid, every player, and they'll say, okay, your vertical jump is normally 50, today it's 37, what happened? And you go, oh, I had a bit of a dodgy Chinese last night, I've been up all night getting sick, and they go, okay, maybe it's best you don't train today. Likewise, your vertical jump is up 10 from what it normally is, what's going on with you? Oh, do you know what, I had 10 hours sleep last night, I haven't had a great sleep all week because the baby's been keeping me up, man. Just got really good sleep last night, so I feel great, I'm ready to train. All of a sudden, we're pulling him back from training, and he's ready to go, so maybe we're going to do a few extras with him, or he can do a little bit of extra conditioning, or a little bit of extra strength work, whatever it is he specifically needs at that time of the year. That makes sense? Again, simple one I use, no resources at all. When I'm travelling with the New South Wales ACT under 18s and 16s, we do a broad jump test. So every morning I just get out a tape measure, they jump, whatever it is, whether it's 6.5 foot up to top guys jump 8 foot, okay? And it's just, you get a trend, more often you do it, obviously you get a better resource of what your norm is. But like I said, that guy that's jumping 8 foot every day, all of a sudden he jumps 7 foot. I go, hey, what's going on? There's a couple of different ways this can work, okay? So you go, what are you talking about? I feel great. And I'll go, all right, no worries. And then I'll go to the physio and say, can you have a look at him because his vert jumps way down. The physio go, oh yeah, his hammy's gone. He's not going to play today.
You show us the jump.
Yeah. So, broad jump. You've got a vertical jump, which is basically you have a tape measure up the wall. You jump up, hit the top. Obviously, you take away the standing height, jump up. Jump height minus standing height gives you your vertical jump score. If I was to get a tape measure out the floor, so here I'll mark it out to 10 foot just in case you've got any freeze. Stand at the start. Jump. Again, I might give them 1 or 2 jumps and take their best jump that day. But you've got, the more often you do it, if you're away for a 10-day camp, or if you're doing it, most teams train twice a week and then game the weekend. That'll be a minimum then. Okay, so there's 3 scores a week you can get. And it's a very good indicator of how they're tracking physically, and again, it costs nothing. So then, if someday my club decides here's 10 grand to go and buy the most sophisticated software in the world to see whether your players are ready, you go, sweet, but I can do it for nothing if I have to. If you come in someday and the software is broken, you go, all right, no worries, boys, we get out to tape measure. Make sense? Other thing I've used with that is I've had situations where a guy's vertical jump is down before a game. We go to the physio, hey, you might want to take a look at him, see what's going on. He goes, looks great to me, everything, all his muscles are firing fine, he's sweet. I chatted to him, no drama, says he slept well, says he ate well. Say, okay, all right, I'll give him a bit of extra attention in the warm-up, see how he goes then. Give him a little bit of extra attention in the warm-up. Still not really looking right. That's the point then when I'll go to the coach, I'll go, listen, this guy's vertical jump is down. Physio says there's nothing wrong with him, I've given him extra work in the warm-up. I don't know what it is, I'm just letting you know. Maybe you guys, before the game, could just really pump up his tyres, tell him what a great game he had last day, tell him how important he is to the team. All of a sudden, that kid might not feel great because his vertical jump was a little bit down or physically he's a little bit down. All of a sudden, 10 minutes before the game, coach is in his ear telling him how great he is. He goes out onto the pitch with a big chest. That can have a massive impact. Okay? So just little tricks like that you pick up along the way that are good to use. All good? Anybody got any questions before we move on?
Yeah, do you have, is there the research on a certain percentage? So you say like I'd like to jump in 7 foot, 6 foot, like where's the red line of what is down and what's just typical error? Yeah,
so I'd normally go just based on my own, this is purely based on my own experience, I'd normally go about 0.5, 0.6. Again, depending on the athlete, you'll know the athlete, like 0.6 is obviously a much bigger decrease for a kid that can only jump 6.5 foot versus a kid that jumps 8 foot. You know, so you'll have to, it's very much on an individual basis as well. And in these sort of situations as well, research is great, but a conversation and face-to-face, how you feeling today, sleep all right, asking open questions and trying to prize information out of the player will give you far more tangible results and answers than kind of what it technically says in the research. You know, it's very important to know what it says and know what the norms are, but asking open questions to your player. How did you feel last night? Did you drink enough water? Did you sleep enough? Who was your housemate? Was he snoring? Was he farting? Was she on the phone to her boyfriend all night crying? Blah, 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 blah. All these things can influence performance. All good? Anything else? Sweet. Got it. Now we're into the interesting stuff, athleticism. So that's movement pretty much covered. When we look at the components of athleticism, okay, we talk about speed, repeat sprintability, agility, endurance, flexibility, strength, and power. Okay? What do we reckon are the most important when it comes to AFL? Or you're most important for your team, the way you play, your style? Repeat sprintability? Yeah. Anybody got any others?
Endurance.
Endurance. Strength. Flexibility. Yeah. Okay, they're all vitally important. I'd never place one more so than the other. I'd never sacrifice one for the other. I'll put in some examples because some people will say, what's the difference between speed and repeat sprintability? Anybody tell me?
Speed is just you once off. Repeat sprint is the difference between multiple sprints.
Exactly right, yeah.
Decreases in time.
Yeah. So we look at our, if I was to use a Swans player for an example, because I don't want to bag out any other teams, but if, I'll bag out Lewis Jetta because he's gone to the West Coast. Okay, so if we look at Jets, okay, or even Gary Rowan, absolute gun, top speed, unbelievable. If he makes a break down the sideline, 50, 100, 150 metres, you won't see him again for a couple of minutes. Okay, but then you got a guy like Dan Hannaby, Kieran Jack, Luke Parker, who's just go, 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 go. Can run high-speed efforts, but can do them over and over again with very little recovery. That makes sense? So that's what we talk about when we're talking about out-and-out speed versus repeat sprintability. And we can see how they're both very important, but obviously more important repeat sprintability in certain positions rather than top speed for other positions. Yeah. Examples of tests. So for top-end speed, I'd normally do a 10, 20, 30 metre sprint test, either with speed gates or just marking out your cones, a simple stopwatch. Reason I don't really go further than that, particularly in pre-season, it's just there's too much risk of injury when you're going top end. If it's in a game, how many times do you reckon we hit top speed in a game, like maximum speed? Minimal? Would anybody argue that you would hit top speed in a game? You hope you would. Okay, so let's say for example, sorry, what was that?
Maybe early in the game, but
early in the game. Okay, so if we take you two guys put you on a track, give you a proper warm-up, you're on the track or even on the footy field, we warm you up, we do a 100-metre sprint, you clock 11 seconds, you clock 11.5 seconds. Do you think at any point in the game you're going to cover 100 metres in that same speed?
I don't know how many meters we're going.
Nah. Okay, if you were.
I don't know, I was a full forward, so
Yeah.
I would hope my 50 metre on some of my leads I can't go any faster, not 100. No.
Yeah. So the reality is that in the game, we're always operating like under a bit of fatigue, or as well, like if we get you guys on the track, the only thing you have to think about is running that 100 metres. In a game, you catch the footy, you could have 100 metres open, but you're running 100 metres, you're scanning the park, looking around you, you're wondering what you're going to do next, you're listening to communication from teammates, so you're not really all in the moment, so you wouldn't ever hit your true top speed in the game, so it's a little bit less of a risk of injury. Of course you can still get injured, but that's typically why in training, or just look at 10, 20 and 30, it's a good predictor of what you can get over 100, but reduce the risk of training. Like we said at the start of the presentation, your list is only as good as the guys you've got in the field, so especially when you're in my role of physical preparation, if you blow someone's hammy in training, that can be your, what do you call it? In Ireland it's called a P45 where it's based, so thanks very much, but you're gone. Fire. What's it called here? Oh, sacked, but like, is there a document or something, or a termination of your contract? Nah, it's just, put it away, should we? Okay, repeat spinability. Anybody ever heard of a 150 metre shuttle? Okay, this is one I use in AFL. One you guys might be more familiar with is, say, if you do for your conditioning drill, if you're doing repeat 100 metre efforts or repeat 200 metre efforts. Say you're doing your 200s and it's on a 90-second cycle or a 2-minute cycle. So you're doing 4 efforts. They go every 2 minutes, so it might take them a minute 10 seconds. You got that set recovery, then they go again, then they go again, then they go again. You measure the first one. First one's taking them a minute. Next one's taking them a minute 2. Next one's taking them a minute 3. Next one's taking them a minute 4. That's a guy that's got decent repeat sprintability. If I come along and I do the first one in a minute, the next one in a minute 10, the next one in a minute 15, the next one in a minute 20, that's shocking. Okay, so do we see, that give you a good idea of how we measure repeat sprintability? Yeah. If you do get a kid like that, or an athlete like that, any age, guy or girl, you're putting them through the drill, but they're clearly struggling, that's when I'll pull them out, because it comes back to injury prevention and injury management. He's at a point, he or she is at a point now where what you're demanding of them is too much, and by putting them through it, yeah, you can argue they need to stick in, and this is where your relationship with your coach will be really important, because your coach will say, nah, he needs to get his ass kicked, he needs to learn, it's going to benefit him mentally to stick through it, but then otherwise, you're looking at it from a kind of an injury point of view. You've got to know when to pull kids out, so you might say, okay, we're doing 400 metre efforts. You're going to do effort 1, then you're going to rest. You're going to do effort 3, then you're going to rest. You're going to do effort 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to do 1, 2, 3. You're going to do 1 and 2. You're going to rest the third, and then you're going to do 4. Okay? That way, it's not so much of a cop out. You're giving guys an extra little bit of recovery where it's needed, but everybody still feels involved in the session. And the guys that are doing it aren't looking at 4 guys walking off crying in the corner, and their opinion of them goes down, and those guys feel let down because the rest of the team are out on the track doing the hard work. It's just a way of managing players through session, but keeping everybody involved. Does that make a bit of sense? Anybody got any other ways they've kind of managed those sort of situations? Agility test, simple T test, which is where you set up 3 cones in the shape of a T. Start here, out, run to the right of the T, run to the left of the T, back to the middle, back. Pretty simple, minimal equipment, stopwatch, 3 cones, away you go. Gives you a good indicator of guys, change the pace to a turn and circle, and then you can see, Russell, you turn really well off your right, but you're really, really bad off your left, so let's work on that as part of our extras, yeah. But let's look at why you're turning left. Is it because this is your kicking foot, and you're really strong, powering off your right, but your weak foot, because you don't kick off that foot, you don't ever practice kicking off that foot, you just totally neglect it, you can't turn that way, so everything acts as a test and everything acts as a screen. And you could look at it and just say, oh, he's just shit off his left. Why is he shit off his left? Because he's weak. Why is he weak? Because he never kicks off that foot. Now we're starting to probe. Now we're starting to get answers. The more answers we have to the problems, we've got better ways to solve the problems. Make sense? Endurance, the old 3K time trial, everybody loves that. Most people here have probably done it at some stage of their life. Probably don't need to spend too much time talking about that. Or anybody got any other?
What's the difference between a 3K and a 2K? What's the limitations you might give you?
Not a huge amount really. 3K is just really the stock standard that's been done in the AFL. So you kind of measure yourself against other teams. Most teams coming up have done a 2K. With younger guys, I might do a 1K, just because we talked about how would we train guys that are 12 versus guys that are at an AFL level. Again, just because AFL do a 3K, they're out for it. They've trained, they're just got more muscle in their legs, more endurance. 12-year-old, like I said, what's the point in making them do a 3K if after a K and a half is absolutely buggered? So you could do a K and a half in a decent time, maybe, I don't know, say he does it in 5 minutes, but then it takes him 7, 8 minutes to do the next K and a half, you know, so that's actually a good idea just to, with younger kids, start them off with a little bit less volume. You still get a result. The only thing with it is you just can't measure it against other people. Like we were saying earlier on, particularly teenagers, and they really love when it's a tangible score. So if they're able to go, okay, Nat Fife runs this time in a 3K, I'm only 3 minutes off Nat Fife, but I'm 15, so I can keep working on that, keep chipping away. Yeah.
How many 3K time trials would you do in a press?
2. One start from the end. That's with academy boys. Our AFL teams might do 3. And again, there's nothing wrong with doing, you can do a 3K, you can do a 1K, you could do 3 1K efforts with 5-10 minutes recovery between each one. That gives you an example of how they're tracking over 1K. You can obviously multiply that out then to see what 3K is. It also gives you an example of repeat sprintability over a longer, more kind of endurance marker, you know.
Can you substitute the 3K time trial with a beat test?
You can, yeah. And again, beat test has been done for a long, long time. I'm not really a massive fan of it. And I don't think anybody that's ever done the 3K or the beat test is a massive fan of it either. Not that anyone's a massive fan of the 3K, but yeah. I know we still do the beat test at the combine, and I was lucky enough to be involved there at the draft combine this year. But yeah, if you were to ask my opinion on one test to take out of the combine, I'd probably take it, because 3K and the beat test are giving you the similar information. If you decide to do a beat test and you decide to do a 3K, sweet, no problem. Neither is right or wrong, but there's no need to really do 2 of them side by side.
I was just sort of thinking, like, if you time 4 and you've only got a set period of time, I find that you can get through a beat test a lot quicker than you can get through a 3K time trial.
And again, it's down to facilities as well. Like, do you have time as a coach to go out and mark out a 3K track? Not really, but if you've got an indoor cricket centre or an indoor hall, away you go, put on the tape and you're sweet.
Did you not do a beat test for your cats?
We'll do a 3K. We have done a yo-yo test before. We didn't do it this year because just logistically it's a bit of a pain in the ass.
What's the difference between a yo-yo and a beat?
Not a whole lot. Yo-yo, you run to the end. Imagine a beat test with a 5-metre run-off at the end. So basically, instead of hitting the line, waiting at the line, and then going again on the beat, you hit the line, you've got a little run-off period, and then you get back. You go again. That's pretty much it. They're both the very same. The yo-yo just involves marking out more cones, hence why we stopped it. Always make it easier on yourself. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what sort of time frame would you be talking? Yeah. So over 2 months, that's what, 8 weeks. Yeah, I'd probably. So we did it over 6 weeks. We did it at the week 1 and week 6. Sorry, week 7. And yeah, again, it's that sort of thing. It depends on what sort of time you have in your hands. Are you better off putting more skill work into them? We do shorter bursts of conditioning. So we'll do a 10-minute block where they'll have just repeat efforts. So say one day it might be a case where you might go, okay, you're going to do 3 2-minute runs with a minute rest between each one. It's going to be a hard 2-minute effort solid. So it depends on your conditioning program, what your conditioning program is between. I found when you do your conditioning drills, so whether you mark out a 2-minute run, or a 1-minute run, or a 3-minute run, okay, let's go with a 1-minute run. Mark the start, count how many laps they've done, mark the finish. Okay, if Russell's finished, I've got his cone, I go, Russell, you've got to beat that cone next time. Okay, so I always give them, rather than just letting them run for 2 minutes, because the guys that want to push hard will push hard, the guys that don't won't. Same when they do, this is talking about just running based conditioning. If they're doing 300 efforts, 200 efforts, 100 efforts, 50-meter efforts, always, if I'm coaching a session on my own, say the boys are starting where you are, I'll stand big. Back here, I'll go 10, 5, 3, 2, 1, blow my whistle, I'm already maybe 20, 30 meters ahead of them. I'm currently sprinting, get to the finish line, so that when they arrive at the finish line, I'm counting down 21, 22, 23, 24. All of a sudden then, they're here in their time, and they know I'm counting next time. I can see when they're slacking, and they're always going to be competitive with themselves. Where if I just stand back and go, they don't really have any reason to push unless they're that way inclined. And with our teams, it's always better to build up the bottom athletes, build them up, because the top guys are always going to push hard. Okay, but like our squad strength is kind of determined by our weakest link. Bring up the weakest link. Like I said, the top guys are always going to push.
At what point would you, like at the moment, especially after pre-season, like with clients, like I've got guys who are flying, like running unbelievable times.
Yep.
And then some guys who miss training for whatever reason, and they need to do that work from an injury prevention point of view as well.
Yep.
How would you sort of manage that training? Like, you split the group, or would you still make them more good at running? Or
yeah.
How do you
That's a really good point, because I'm sure everybody has that problem. And whether it's they're really good at running, or you got a group of guys that are mad for the gym, or whatever it is, you're always going to have different guys with different qualities. The way I solve that is I go group 1, 2, 3, or group A, B, C. And when it comes to that point in training where you need to do your conditioning, the guys that are really, really good at running, you might go, okay, they're really good at running, but their tackle is shit, or whatever it is. Look at the quality that they mostly. Yeah, you could make them do extra running, but are they really going to get that much better? You know, it's better off to bring up other parts of the game. So I put them in that group. Then the guys that need more running, put them in that group, and have that going all throughout the season, where you just have a 10-minute block for your extras, and you go, okay, you guys are doing flexibility exercises to increase your movement base. You guys are doing extra running. You guys are doing extra tackle. You guys are doing extra skill. Whatever it is you deem important. I'll look at the whole year and I'll say, okay, we're going to do. So we do a bit of tackle work as well. So apart from the strength, power, skill, flexibility, all that stuff that we cover in strength and conditioning and physical preparation, say we'll look at tackle and go, all right, we're going to do a 6-week period here with the whole squad. After that, the coaches, that's all the time that the skills coaches are giving us. Okay. Then after that, the coaches might go, oh, this kid's still swinging out of tackles, he's still got arms, he can't get his feet right or whatever. So we'll go, all right, take those 5 kids. That's what they're doing for extras. These 5 kids are doing set shots. These 5 kids are doing handballs. So everybody's getting what they need, rather than kids that don't need a skill training that skill just because everybody else has to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that? Do you reckon you could implement something like that in your program?
Yeah,
Good. It's a lot easier than you think, and makes it a bit more interesting for the guys as well. And it means your coaches, you're able to give kids specific treatment that we need. Like I said earlier on, you're talking about bringing the bottom feeders up and then just balancing out the top guys. Flexibility, we already went through that with the overhead squat and the FMS again, it's another good one. Strength, so that'll be tested. Typically, if you wanted to do a strength test, for athletes, I look at a 3 rep max strength test. So we're talking in a weights environment now. So say, use a typical example, or an easy example that everybody can comprehend of a chin-up. So if we do a weighted chin-up where we strap weight on with a weights belt, or even if we've got them holding a dumbbell between their knees and they're going up. If I can do 3 strict reps from a full hang with 30 kilos, that's my 3 rep max. You got, when you get into strength training, you will have guys that will do a 1 rep max or whatever, but that's not really sport specific. Again, I wouldn't go doing 100 meter max out sprint tests like Usain Bolt would, because we're not trying to get guys to be Usain Bolt, we're trying to get guys to be footy players. Same thing in the gym, we don't really test the way strength sports do as in powerlifters and weightlifters, because at the end of the day we're footy players. We're doing strength to become better footy players, not doing strength to become powerlifters or bodybuilders or weightlifters or any of that. Make sense? With strength, I always look at form, technique, function. So again, it goes back right back to the start of the presentation. Movement is key. Okay, so if at any point, whatever you're doing, squatting, benching, chin-ups, if their form breaks down, just take it away. Okay, start off, everything's body weight, they build it up. If they're comfortable and you need to add a bit of extra load, sweet, start off with dumbbells, a light bar, really strict on your standards for movement. This is a topic I absolutely love, strength, and I could go on talking about it all day, but I don't want to waste anybody's time either. So.
What about the age stuff over there?
The age stuff, so like I just said, squatting and stuff, we do bodyweight squats as kids, you know, that doesn't take any equipment at all. Even holding a footy for counterbalance, this sort of stuff, so that'll train our whole body, whole legs. Single leg arabesque, hamstring work, you get a massive tension in your hamstring there, you're doing that. Glute work, glute bridges, push-ups, pull-ups, basic bodyweight stuff. And like I said, when they're perfect at that, for like teenage adolescents, I like to operate in around 12-15 reps. So you've got to be able to perform the movement for and that's a pretty high volume as well. It'll take them a while to build up to that stage. Then when they get to that stage, they'll go, all right, here's 5 kilos, add 5 kilos on. Now they want me to hand them 50 kilos, but I'm not going to do that. You slowly build them up. And 12 to 15 reps is really kind of the magic number, because they're not going to be using stuff that's heavy enough for that much volume to do any damage to themselves, unless their technique is poor. And at that point, you guys or whoever's looking after them should be supervising. That becomes a supervision issue. Stuff like walking lunges. Walking lunges is an excellent way to train your legs. No equipment. Easy. The more we can train our hamstrings and our glutes. Glutes is the biggest one. I call the glutes the engine of the body. Glutes is your ass. Biggest muscle in your body. Okay? A lot of injuries come from people just either not having enough muscle there or not knowing how to use it properly. So simply when you get people doing a squat or whatever movement it is, yeah, I can squat down, I can stand up. I can squat down, I can stand up, I can squeeze my ass really hard at the top, and now I've trained all the muscles and activated all the muscles. Activation is the key. You can have muscle and you can't activate it, you'll get injured all the time. You've got to learn to activate it properly.
So how do you activate glute medius throughout the day? Because I've got a lot of guys that have glute medius problems that are over 25, 30 years old.
Okay.
And they sit on their ass all day for work, they've got no choice.
Yep. I want anybody that wants to take part in this, jump up, okay? I'll give you a little quick demo of what we're going to do. So, again, very little fitness. 50. Alright, so if we lean against the wall in this position here, I'm going to come up on my toes. My right leg, I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to point my toe up, okay? So what sort of position am I in here? Sprinting position, okay? So if I'm sprinting, that's my sprinting position. From here, I'm going to bring my toe out, back in, out, back in, out, back in. What's happening with my hips here? Anything?
Moving.
Rotating in. And it's staying relatively still. Okay? Versus if I went, you see the difference there? Okay, so this is what a lot of kids will do straight away. They move their whole hip rather than activate the muscle. I want everybody to jump up. Try and do that. Keep your hips still. Keep your hips still. And just rotate out. I want you to tell me where you feel it. So try and just grab against the wall. Get it at a decent angle. Just 2 minutes, guys. So up. So everybody 2 feet back. I'll cue you guys to do it. Okay. So 2 feet back, level together, like sprinting position. Okay. Now we're going to come up on our left calf. So left calf up in the air. Right knee up in the air. So we got to be on our toe, and our knees got to be up with our toe pointing up. Okay. Keep your hips square. Toe pointing up. Toe pointing up. Up on our heels. Up, up, up. Calf should be burning. Okay. Now we're going to move our foot out. So move the right foot. The foot that's in the air. You're going to keep your knee in place. We just externally rotate your foot back in, out, back in 12 times. Who's feeling a burn in their glute? Yeah? Okay, change to the other leg, 12 times. Right up on your calf, right up, right up, right up. Remember, we're sprinting here. Okay, get into a sprint angle. Start to rotate your foot. Keep the knees straight, bring it out. Okay, good job. Sit back down. Anybody feel like they need a hip replacement? Their glutes are on fire. That work? Yeah. Who felt the burn in their glutes? Yeah. Pretty easy to do. Okay, so a great one. If you've got training at 6, 7 o'clock, guys are just getting out of the car, they've been sitting at an office all day. All right, everybody up against the fence on the side of the oval, bang, 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 12 reps. And that's that muscle activated. Like you say, problem solved. No equipment. You're really bad at it? No worries, do it at home. How did you get on doing your exercise at home? Yeah, didn't do them. Why not? It doesn't require any equipment. It takes 2 minutes. Players got no excuse, they've no way to get out of it. Okay? The more you can do that with them, teach them things that they can do at home. In the weights room, to go back to strength, I keep my stuff super, super simple so that they can go and repeat it. Okay? When we talked about splitting players into groups, when it comes to strength as well, it's not all weights. So my programs will start off with mobility. We'll go into plyometrics then, so box jumps, power, broad jumps, explosive push-ups. Then we'll go into strength. The workout takes about 40 minutes. Strength is only 20 minutes away. Okay? And then after that we go into correctives. Our correctives are to help us fix our overhead squat. And if we've gone through our overhead squat, we've got 6 out of 6. It's to help me from having this asymmetry overhead to be able to get up here. And it's personalised for you. Okay? Very, very simple. I've got 3 groups. One group does the most basic stuff, body weight. They do it on a Tuesday, and they go and do the very same thing on their own on a Thursday, because I only see them once a week. So it means all you've got to do is go and do what I showed you on Tuesday, and you're sweet. Easy? Yeah. The more advanced group then does it with a little bit of weight, so some dumbbells, some bars, a little bit of stuff, but any gym would have the equipment that I'm asking for. The next group then are my guys that are pretty confident, Group A. I trust them that they'll do a Tuesday workout with me. They'll go and do another workout on Thursday with a whole different group of exercises. And I trust them to know that they're going to go and do it because they've been in the program a little while, they're confident. Maybe they go to a school or their dad's a personal trainer. They're just a bit more confident. You can trust them to go and do it on their own. And then when you see them actually in the gym the next day, you can tell as well that they've been taking care of the stuff behind the scenes. Make sense? We'll move on, because we're just a little bit short on time. Power, vertical jump and broad jump. We already went through that. It's a great measure of power and readiness on game day or training day. And in any given week, say when it comes to my time with a player, again, this might be based off the results in a broad jump or whatever. If I get access to them twice a week in season say, I might go, okay, Daniel, you're going to benefit more from 40 minutes of stretching today than you would of an hour strength and conditioning. So I'm going to sack the strength and conditioning today because you're going to benefit more from this. Make sense? Just quickly fly through the rest because I was told I got 5 minutes left, 5 minutes left. Alright, so planning the training program. So somebody asked about this earlier on. Transition period. So this is basically your off season. Preparation period, December to March, pre-season, and then competition period. So obviously how we train the guys here is going to be a hell of a lot different than how we train them in here. That was a big shock I got when I moved here 3 years ago. I had previously worked in rugby. When I came to work in an AFL pre-season, I was shocked by the volume of running that you guys do. Real eye-opener for me, great learning experience for me to step out of my comfort zone and see something else. And then what I was even more shocked about was competition period, how the week looks in the competition period. So in rugby, we play a game on Saturday, we cover on a Sunday, you do a little bit of stuff on Monday, video review, stuff like that. You go on Tuesday, you are getting your ass kicked and you're kicking the shit out of each other. Okay? AFL is not like that at all. The whole week is recovery, recovery, recovery. Because the hard work's been done in pre-season, tactics, game style, team play. Thursday is a bit more of a significant training session, but very, very short. Because the intensity is up, the session is very short, and it's all about the weekend. So that was a big shock for me. Anybody got anything they'd like to share a question on that?
How would you separate the competition period with finals and in-season the rounds? Would you do much different? How would you taper or build towards finals?
Yeah, so first of all we've got to get to finals.
Yep.
And then when we do get to finals, yeah, you'd taper. Like a lot of the hard work is done. Do I really need to be doing like condition on top? If you're looking at how hard they're working in the game, if guys that have worked hard in the game, you pull them back a little bit. Guys that haven't had as much game time or haven't had as much hard work through the game, you give them a little top up. But generally, again, by the time you get to finals, most of the hard work should be done. You've got about and it's just about managing your time. Like I said with Daniel earlier on, if Daniel needs 40 minutes of mobility, but Hayden's got to benefit more from 40 minutes of strength. You know, serve them both, give them both what they need, but in that same time frame. So sacrifice some parts of your session for others. Again, Daniel might be the type of player who needs to feel like his body's really relaxed before a game, doesn't want to feel sore. Hayden's the type of guy that wants to be in the gym the Friday before a game, give it to him. Okay, now as long as he's not damaging himself, but again, it's a psychological thing. Some players have certain routines that make them feel better. I know Adam Goods was one who used to always just do a tiny bit of gym work. Even an hour before a game, home games, he'd run up to the gym, just do a tiny bit of work. Nothing significant, but it just made him feel good. Yeah, little things like that. So, kind of gets down to the individual at that stage. Performance, we'll just fly through this. So this is more a psychological end of things, ambition to work out, self-motivation, emotional stability, coachability. When it comes to physical performance then, like I talked about, mobility, stability, fundamental movement patterns, they're the key. You can't have sports skill without this when it comes to a high level. So this is the order of importance of the building, strength, power, endurance. Sports skill then is last. Okay, so one of the most common things is, you've got to move like AFL players in the gym, or you've got to have med balls and do med ball exercise like that. No. Gym is where you train to be an athlete. Physical preparation, strength and conditioning, you train to be an athlete. Unless you're at the very top level, then you can make things specific. But a 13-year-old kid needs to become athletic before he becomes AFL athletic. And the transfer will happen in the team training, in the skill sport. Okay, so at the school I work, say, I'll have the tennis coach come into me and go, okay, I've got this year 12, I've got Leighton Hewitt's gym program, I want him on Leighton Hewitt's gym program. And then I get the head rugby coach coming in and he goes, right, I've got a copy of the Waratahs training program. I want all my guys in the Waratahs training program. And I go, okay, cool. I go, you know he's not Leighton Hewitt, and you know these 16-year-olds aren't the Waratahs. So let's make them athletic. We all want the same thing. We're all trying to make them bigger, faster, and more powerful. So let's get them there before we start worrying about what the Waratahs are doing and what Leighton Hewitt's doing. That makes sense? What you were talking about, peaking for competition. So in training, this is typically kind of how I operate. This is an example of a 6-month training cycle. So your microcycles are just week to week. So you're going to have high weeks, you're going to have low weeks. Look at your calendar. Okay, look at the teams you're playing. You can afford to train a little bit harder this week against this opposition. You know you need to kind of back off. You've got a really tough game at the weekend, and you've got to back it up again next weekend. 2 opposition in a row. You're going to have to back off training that week because you know the intensity of the game is going to be right up there. That makes sense? So I'll always plan this in accordance. It never looks perfect like that. This might be 4 weeks, followed by a down curve. This might be 8 weeks, followed by a down curve. Depends who you're playing against. All good? Nutrition, again, really, really important when it comes to sport. A lot of people say, what'll I eat night before a game? Again, I said this last year, no use having salad right before a game if you're eating Macca's and a Porto Monday to Thursday. You know what I mean? Take care of your diet all through the week and that'll have an effect on performance. If you just have a good breakfast or a good meal the night before a game, that's once a week, doesn't matter a shit. Alright? You'd be better off eating well all week and then eating Macca's the night before a game, because what your normal habit is how it's going to relate to you. We're running out of a bit of time, so that's my fault. When it comes to nutrition, the number one thing I'd say is 90% of the players that you guys probably work with are all dehydrated. Okay, how much does water cost? It's free. Okay, so it's a bit like that glute exercise. There's no excuse not to do it. Alright? When we travel, I'm really hard on the under 18s and under 16s. We all get given a water bottle at the start. If you show up at any team session or anything at all without your water bottle, you have to sing a song. Nobody wants to sing a song, especially 16-year-old boys. Alright? So it means as well, water bottle's a litre. I tell you to drink 4 litres a day. How easy is that? Fill the water bottle 4 times. Have it on front of your desk at school. Have it with you, have it in your bag. Easy. Next thing for hydration. If you lose a kilo in sweat during a game, roughly you've got to replace it with a kilo or a litre and a half. So 1 litre of sweat is, or 1 kilo of sweat is a litre and a half hydration. Keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple, and there's more chance that they'll do it, they'll keep on top of it. Yeah. Comes to recovery methods, okay, this is invisible training. So like we talked about earlier on, some guys, depending on what they need, they'll train hard until they do any recovery. And when it comes to tapering and finals and stuff, this is really important. But again, if you haven't been doing it all season, you won't make it to finals, number 1. But number 2, if you do, it's going to be even more important, okay? And it's that part of the season where the games are getting more and more intense as finals comes along, so your recovery has to become more intense with that. Not necessarily more intense, but you just have to do a bigger volume of recovery, take care of yourself better, because obviously the games are taking a bigger toll. I equate recovery to a bucket of water. Okay, so if we fill up the bucket of water, what happens? Keep filling it, it overflows. Okay, if we tip it out, we've got to fill it back up again. So what you put out in your performance is your bucket of water, you've got to fill it back up in, that's your recovery. Make sense? Again, I'll send you on all these slides so you haven't. Some guys doing hot yoga, somebody was asking about yoga earlier on. I know the Swans, they do yoga, training teams do it. Don't know about hot yoga, the British ones, I don't really fancy that. This is the New South Wales Rams. This is after a game we had last year, Nationals, and this is down at St Kilda in the children's pool. It was getting pretty dark and pretty cold, and I made them get in right up to their shoulders, and they didn't really like it, but it was good for them. They had a game in 2 days after that. Again, you see a lot of footy teams, they're getting up to their hips. Everybody knows that feeling when you get into the water. It's up to your knees and it's sweet, and then it goes up past you, and you're not a feeling that makes to your nervous system. The shock to your whole body. That's what you want when you do recovery. Okay, so that's why I always encourage full immersion. I know we ran out of a bit of time, but if anybody's got any questions, I'll hang around there for lunch. I'm hanging around for the game later on, so there's no point in me going home. So I'll be around for the rest of the afternoon. If you want to ask questions, just come and see me. Like I said, if I don't know the answer, I'll give you a resource, I'll give you the name of someone that will have the answer. And hopefully we'll be able to take care of you. That's my email, website if anybody doesn't want to talk to me face to face now. Said it last year again, say it every time I'm lucky enough to speak to a group of people, never eat alone, and it's quite fitting now that we're going into lunch. There's a really big wealth of talent around this coaches. You're all coaches, you're all here to better yourselves. You've all got great information to share, and whether it be AFL wise, or I don't know, there might be 2 lawyers in the room that want to share information. But the easy thing to do now is step out of the room, go for lunch, get on your mobile phone, call the missus, go on Facebook, go on Instagram, whatever. Use the talent that's in the room, get to know everybody. You never know who you'll meet, you never know what sort of stimulating conversation you have, you never know what sort of connections you might make in the room. Alright, so get around each other, get to know each other, and you'll all benefit from it. Again, I'll hang around, so ask any questions you want. Thanks very much for listening, thanks very much for taking part, jumping up and working your glutes. Much appreciated, guys.
The key thing is that you're a bit unsure, get in touch with him. You know, like I'm sure he, you know, you're only too happy to sort of answer any specific questions you've got. So it is a very individual topic. You know, you're all working with different athletes, different abilities, different ages, different shapes, that sort of thing. So certainly make use of Darren's talent. So thank you, mate. We've got a pretty quick turnaround, but we've got lunch out there. So there's ham salad, chicken salad with this fruit, and there's some salad rolls in the bag on the end for those that are vegetarian. As I said, soft drink and water. We've probably got just under 10 minutes, but I've spoken to Henry. Henry's here. He's happy if you want to eat while he starts his presentation. So grab your stuff, do your breaks now. I'll come and get you.